My friend, there's an uncomfortable truth going around the halls of the Jefferson Health Training Complex, and almost nobody is saying it out loud. This coming Tuesday, July 28th, the Philadelphia Eagles officially open training camp, and behind all the excitement of another season, there's a secret list. A list that Howie Roseman is keeping under lock and key. 3 players. 3 names that most fans would never imagine seeing on the bubble. And we're not talking about anonymous backups nobody knows. We're talking about guys who arrived with expectations, who already had their name practically carved into the roster, who plenty of people considered locks. Here's the deal. When the whistle blows and the real practices begin, these 3 men are going to be fighting for their very survival in the NFL. And the scariest part is that 2 of them might not even make it to the first week of the season. The truth is that this story has layers almost nobody is telling, and each one of these decisions could redraw the Eagles roster right under the fans' noses. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Because what's at stake here is not routine preseason business. It's the future of entire positions on this team in a window where Philadelphia is fighting for another title. Let me show you who these 3 names are, one by one, and why each cut would be a genuine shock. Let's start with the most crowded position on the entire roster. The Eagles' passing attack went through a deep transformation this offseason. Roseman spent plenty of capital to reinforce the receiver group. He used the 20th overall pick of the 2026 draft on one of the most coveted names in the entire class. He signed a big-name veteran in free agency, and he still went after another experienced body in a trade. In other words, Philadelphia's wide receiver storehouse is simply overflowing. And that's exactly where the problem lies for the first name on this list. A player who arrived in the middle of the offseason precisely to provide depth, and who now runs the risk of being exactly the piece that's left over. His name is Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was brought in during the middle of the offseason for a very simple reason: depth in the receiver group. At the moment he signed, it made all the sense in the world. But what happened afterward turned the whole thing completely against him. The Eagles didn't just reinforce the position, they overloaded it. The arrival of the first-round rookie changed the entire hierarchy. We're talking about Makai Lemon, the 20th overall pick, winner of the Biletnikoff Award as the best receiver in all of college football, a guy who closed out his last season at USC with 79 receptions, 1,156 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That's the kind of talent that doesn't sit on the bench. And Lemon was just the beginning, because Philadelphia still added other wideouts to the group after that. So answer me one thing. Where exactly is there room for Elijah Moore in this equation? To make the roster, Moore is going to have to climb over younger guys the Eagles have been holding on to for a few years now. Names like Johnny Wilson and Darius Cooper. And here's the cruelest detail of all. It's very hard to imagine the coaching staff handing that spot to Moore when there's so much youth and so much potential already in the building. The harsh reality of football is exactly that. Sometimes you do everything right. You sign in the right place, and the timing still just doesn't cooperate with you. And there's another factor working against him, which is the question of money and flexibility. A veteran taking up a depth spot costs more than a cheap kid still on a rookie contract, and Roseman is known for protecting every inch of cap space he possibly can. When the coaching staff looks at a receiver room that's packed and has to choose between costly experience and cheap youth with room to grow, Philadelphia's recent track record shows you which way that scale tends to tip. And if you think Moore's situation is delicate, wait until you understand the second name on this list, Andy Dalton. That's right, my friend, the experienced veteran, the guy plenty of people swore was an absolute lock on the roster. Dalton's case is one of the most curious of the entire training camp. He's practically a guarantee as the immediate backup to Jalen Hurts this season. Except there's a huge problem hidden right in the middle of that sentence. Dalton is not the second-best quarterback on the roster. How so? Simple. Tanner McKee is right at the center of trade conversations and is considered almost a lock to be dealt before the start of the season. And this is where the math starts to get dangerous for the veteran. Because if, for some reason, McKee is not traded, it's very unlikely the Eagles keep Dalton around as the third quarterback on the roster. And there's one more complicating factor. The rookie Cole Payton, selected at pick number 178 of the draft, could very well already have that developmental spot reserved for him. Do you see the trap? Dalton is stuck in the middle of a game of musical chairs that he doesn't control in the slightest. If McKee goes, he's comfortable. If McKee stays, it's Dalton himself who could become the expendable piece. How many times have you seen an experienced, respected quarterback get cut, not because of what he does on the field, but out of pure roster arithmetic? That's exactly the scenario circling Andy Dalton at this very moment. But the third name might be the most painful of all, because it involves a promise that was never fulfilled. Kelee Ringo. The cornerback was drafted as a project, a player full of raw material with an enormous amount of room to grow. The problem? That was 3 years ago. Ringo came in the 4th round, at pick number 105, with the Georgia pedigree, size, speed, everything you ask for in a modern corner. Everybody knew he was a long-term project, but the project simply dragged on for far too long. Throughout his career, Ringo has been a terrific special teams player, one of the best gunners on the punt coverage unit that Philadelphia has. But that's not what he was drafted for. At the corner position, he never managed to put the pieces together for real. And the numbers tell that story all by themselves. Last season, in a decisive phase of his career, Ringo played only 311 defensive snaps, with coordinator Vic Fangio trusting a journeyman veteran more than the former 4th-round pick. That says it all. Now Ringo is the #1 candidate to be traded if he doesn't put together a monster camp. His value on the market is low, something close to a 5th-round pick or even less than that. And if no offer shows up, then, my friend, he could simply be released before the first week of the season. And it doesn't stop there. Fellow cornerback Jacorian Bennett is in a very similar situation. Philadelphia traded for him last year, hoping to solve a serious depth problem, but he hasn't panned out either so far, and he could end up on that same bubble. And think about the size of the message that sends to the locker room. 2 cornerbacks brought in to reinforce the position, both of them on the tightrope before the first game even starts. It shows just how much the Eagles' secondary has matured above them, with names like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean already established as the heart of that position. When the top of your group gets that strong, the margin for the guys underneath simply evaporates. And that's exactly the point where Ringo and Bennett find themselves right now. Now, to be fair and transparent, we need to present the other side of this story, because nothing here is truly decided. First, none of these cuts is guaranteed. They're candidates, not sentences. A single explosive practice at camp can flip the whole thing, and NFL history is full of players who saved their jobs on one standout play. Second, Kelee Ringo himself has a real trump card that keeps his job alive. Being one of the best special teams gunners on the team carries concrete value, and coaches love that kind of hidden weapon, even if he never becomes a starting corner. Third, in Andy Dalton's case, everything depends on a variable he doesn't control, Tanner McKee's fate. If that trade happens the way almost everyone expects, Dalton simply becomes irreplaceable as the veteran backup to Jalen Hurts, and this whole conversation turns to dust. And fourth, too much depth is a good problem to have. The fact that these players are on the bubble is not a sign of weakness in the roster. It's exactly the opposite. It's the picture of a team so deep, so well built by Howie Roseman, that there's good talent to spare on the margins. And that, for a team that wants to fight for everything in 2026, is a luxury, not a flaw. So now I turn it over to you, the one who truly understands this team. If you were Howie Roseman, which of these 3 names would you cut without thinking twice? And which one would you defend tooth and nail to keep in Philadelphia? Do you believe Elijah Moore can still steal a spot in this crowded passing attack? Or has his ship already sailed for good? And most important of all, if Tanner McKee ends up not being traded, would you really have the nerve to cut an experienced quarterback like Andy Dalton? Drop your opinion down here in the comments, because I read every single one of them. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to follow every bit of the Eagles movement heading into training camp. And I'll be back later to update you with the latest news out of Philadelphia.